Micheal Harte was the primary editor on 5 major documentaries: 3 Identical Strangers, Don't Fuck with Cats, On the President's Orders, Memories of a Murderer, The Nilsson Tapes, and Torn. Here, I will be focusing my research on 3 Identical Strangers and Don't Fuck with Cats primarily, as I believe they best display how Harte has developed the grammar of film editing, especially in the field of documentaries. I will also be bringing in elements of the Memories of a Murderer, The Nilsson Tapes, in order to demonstrate how Harte's style has continued despite tonal shifts in his works. 3 Identical Strangers is a Netflix documentary centered around a set of estranged triplets who coincidentally found each other after 20 years, having never known they had any biological siblings. What begins as delight twists into horror as they discover they were separated as part of a psychological nature versus nurture study on twins and triplets in the area. The film launched Harte's career as a documentary editor after the doc received widespread critical acclaim. Don't Fuck with Cats is a 3-episode docuseries on Netflix, outlining the crimes and search for notorious killer Luca Magnotta. The show follows Deanna Thompson and John Green primarily, 2 internet sleuths who are determined to discover Luca's identity through the power of social media. The piece is Harte's most stylized of his works, receiving mixed reviews as a dramatic change from the standard documentary aesthetic. In Bill Nichols' book titled Introduction to Documentary, he defines the 7 modes of documentary filmmaking: poetic, expository, observational, participatory, reflexive, performative, and interactive. All of Micheal Harte's works can be considered expository documentaries. According to Nichols, a hallmark of the expository mode is evidentiary editing, a method of disseminating information about the topic at hand. Information in expository documentaries is generally relayed through 3 primary formats: scene reenactments. These are often purely visual and provide a representation of auditory information. The interviews, where the auditory information largely comes from, and is a long-held staple of the documentary. These interviews are most often the foundation for an expository documentary. Finally, there is the archival footage, photographs, and recordings. These support the information given by the interviewees as factual. Harte helped develop the grammar of documentary editing most significantly in Don't Fuck with Cats. Through combining the concepts behind scene reenactments and archival photos of social media and other websites, he created a new graphical format for relaying information in documentaries. While the interviews with Deanna, John, and Detective Sergeant Claudette Hamlin ground the piece, the graphical reenactments begin to run center stage, especially in the first episode while the investigation remains largely online. This technique lent itself strongly to the tone of Don't Fuck with Cats. However, Harte found ways to bring his unique style into further works, despite having no online resources to pull from. In Memories of a Murderer, The Nilsson Tapes, the bulk of the information took place in the UK in the 1970s and 80s. Rather than using colourful social media graphics, Harte provided a similar reenactment technique by utilising a typewriter. Providing a physical media alternative to his previous stylistic choices was a method of bringing in Harte's typical style while also adding to the manual atmosphere of the piece. Another hallmark of Micheal Harte's editing style is graphic matches. This technique is characterized by the visual similarity between 2 shots. The technique is often used to link moments together visually in order to demonstrate a thematic link. It is often impressive when noticed in narrative films, but it is rarely used in non-fiction works. Harte not only utilizes a technique not often used in this genre, he stretches its possibility by showcasing the link through interviews and archival photos. The method was used in Don't Fuck with Cats multiple times in a similar way, linking the online search with reality through photos from Google Earth. In 3 Identical Strangers, Harte uses a more challenging graphic match between the interview with David Kellerman and a photo of him as a child. This reminds the viewer that the psychological testing that the adult David is speaking about was not performed on him as we see him in the interview, but on a child. Understanding this is important for the audience to feel the emotional impact of the story. Harte's use of graphical reenactments and graphic matches has certainly helped develop the grammar of editing, especially in expository documentaries. An example of this is in the highly successful further releases of Raw Productions. Raw was behind the creation of Don't Fuck with Cats and has since released creations such as Tinder Swindler and The Most Hated Man on the Internet. These were not edited by Micheal Harte, however the stylistic strokes are very similar. Both use the graphical social media reenactments that were coined by Harte in order to demonstrate points, provide evidentiary support for the interviews, and further the pacing of the story.